The secret I can no longer keep is that you are the most important person in my life, my darling. This profound regret I feel is a constant reminder of the precious gift I carelessly endangered, my darling. You'll never guess the silent promises I've made to myself to be better. If only I get another chance, my darling. The unexpected truth is that your well-being is now my paramount concern, my darling. Prepare for a vulnerable moment. Admitting I was wrong feels insufficient compared to the pain I've caused you, my darling. The untold story of my nights is filled with restless thoughts and dreams of you, my darling. This overwhelming feeling of failure stems from knowing I let you down, my darling. You won't believe how much I yearn to hear your voice again, even if it's filled with anger towards me, my darling. Is it possible to truly forgive someone who has hurt you? This is the question that torments me now, my darling. Get ready for a painful truth. Living with this regret is a constant form of self-punishment, my darling. The shocking realization is that my world feels incomplete, utterly and irrevocably, without you in it, my darling. Little did I understand the depth of my love for you until the possibility of losing you became real, my darling. You won't believe the lengths I've gone to in my mind, trying to find the perfect words to convey my remorse, my darling. Is this what it feels like to have your heart ache with a constant, dull throb? Because that's my reality now, my darling. They say absence makes the heart grow fonder, but this absence is a painful reminder of my mistake, my darling. My imagination conjures up scenarios where you forgive me, each one a fleeting moment of solace, my darling. The silence in our connection is a heavy weight, a stark contrast to the joy we once shared, my darling. I never anticipated the sheer devastation that my actions would inflict, not just on you, but on myself too, my darling. Prepare yourself for a startling admission. My days are now just empty vessels waiting for your return, my darling. Little did I foresee that my lapse in judgment would create such a chasm between us, my darling. The weight of knowing I caused you pain is a burden that shadows my every thought, my darling. You won't believe how many sleepless nights I've spent replaying everything, wishing I could change the outcome, my darling. My soul aches with a longing for your presence, a constant yearning for what we had, my darling. They warned me about the fragility of trust, but I shattered it nonetheless, and now I face the consequences, my darling. Brace yourself for a raw truth. Living with this regret is a constant battle against despair, my darling. The untold story of my current existence is a persistent hope, however faint, for your understanding, my darling, Every memory we created together now feels bittersweet, tinged with the pain of my actions, my darling. You'll never guess how often I find myself thinking of your happiness and how I jeopardized it, my darling. This profound sense of loss permeates every aspect of my life, a constant reminder of what I've risked, my darling. Get ready for a shocker. My sense of self has been shaken to its core by the realization of my mistake, my darling. The secret no one tells you about guilt is that it eats away at your peace until nothing is left, my darling. I'm caught in a loop of remorse, unable to escape the consequences of my actions, my darling. They say forgiveness is divine, and right now, it feels like an unattainable miracle, my darling. My current emotional state is a fragile mix of hope and fear, constantly teetering on the edge of despair, my darling. Prepare to be moved. The thought of your sadness because of me is a wound that refuses to heal, my darling. The hidden truth is that your happiness was always my silent vow, one I tragically broke, my darling. This deep ache in my heart is the physical manifestation of my regret and longing for you, my darling. You won't believe the promises I whisper into the empty air, promises of how I would cherish you differently, my darling. Is it too late to rebuild what I so carelessly destroyed? This question echoes in my soul, my darling. Get ready for a tearful confession. The thought of a future without you is an unbearable emptiness, my darling. The shocking reality is that my strength has completely waned in the face of my regret, my darling. Little did I anticipate the sheer loneliness that would engulf me after hurting you, my darling. My every action now is colored by the regret of my past ones, a constant shadow of what I did, my darling. They say you don't appreciate something until it's gone, and I now understand the devastating truth of that saying, my darling. Brace yourself. The silence where your voice used to be is a constant, painful reminder of my mistake, my darling. You won't believe the turmoil these three little words, "I'm so sorry," have unleashed within me, my darling. Is this what heartbreak truly feels like? Because every fiber of my being screams your name, my darling. They say time heals all wounds, but right now, every second feels like an eternity without you, my darling. My mind replays our moments together on an endless loop, each one a painful reminder of what I've lost, my darling. The silence where your laughter used to be is deafening, a constant echo of my regret, my darling. I never thought I could feel this level of emptiness, a void only your presence could ever fill, my darling. Prepare yourself for the shocking truth. My world has completely shattered since I hurt you, my darling. Little did I know that my actions would create such a devastating storm within my own soul, my darling. The weight of my mistake is a burden I carry every single moment, a constant ache in my chest, my darling. You won't believe what I'd give to turn back time and make everything right again, my darling. My heart races at the mere thought of you, a painful reminder of the love I jeopardized, my darling. They warned me about taking things for granted, but I never imagined the price would be this high. My darling, brace yourself for this. Living without your light in my life is an unbearable darkness, my darling. The truth is out. I am lost without your guidance, adrift in a sea of my own making, my darling. Every song on the radio, every movie scene somehow twists the knife of my remorse deeper, my darling. You'll never guess the lengths I would go to just to see your smile again, my darling. This gut-wrenching feeling. It's the realization of how much I truly need you in my life, my darling. Get ready for a shocker. My happiness evaporated the moment I caused you pain, my darling. The secret no one tells you about regret is that it consumes your every waking thought, my darling. I'm trapped in a prison of my own making, the bars forged from my mistakes, my darling. They say you don't know what you have until it's gone, and now I understand that devastating truth, my darling. My current state, a constant battle between wanting to reach out and the fear of causing more pain, my darling. Prepare to be stunned. The world feels dull and lifeless without your vibrant energy beside me, my darling. The untold story. My every breath is a reminder of the air we used to share, my darling. This overwhelming sadness, it's the direct result of knowing I was the one who hurt you, my darling. You won't believe the dreams I have of us, only to wake up to this harsh reality, my darling. Is it too late to fix what I've broken? This question haunts my every waking moment, my darling. Get ready for a tearjerker. The thought of you being upset because of me is unbearable, my darling. The shocking reality is that my world revolved around you, and now it's spinning out of control, my darling. Little did I anticipate the sheer agony of knowing I caused you to shed a single tear, my darling. My mind is a whirlwind of apologies I long to whisper in your ear, my darling. They say actions speak louder than words, and my actions have screamed my regret ever since, my darling. Brace yourself. The weight of my guilt is a physical ache that never truly subsides, my darling. The hidden truth, I would gladly trade places with your pain if it meant you wouldn't be hurting, my darling. This gnawing feeling of emptiness is a constant reminder of the piece of my heart that's missing. You, my darling. You'll never guess how many times I've replayed our last conversation, searching for where I went wrong, my darling. The unexpected consequence of my actions is this profound sense of isolation without your presence, my darling. Prepare for a revelation. My happiness is intrinsically tied to yours, and right now I am utterly lost, my darling. The untold story of my days is a constant longing for your forgiveness, my darling. This deep sorrow I feel is a testament to the immense value you hold in my life, my darling. You won't believe the lengths my mind goes to imagine a future where I can earn back your trust, my darling. Is this what true remorse feels like? A constant, heavy weight on my soul, my darling. Get ready to be surprised. The world seems muted and colorless without your vibrant perspective, my darling. The shocking truth is that I never intended to cause you even a moment of unhappiness, my darling. Little did I know that my mistake would leave such an indelible mark on my heart, my darling. My thoughts are consumed by you, by what I've done, and by the desperate hope for reconciliation, my darling. They say you learn from your mistakes, and this one has taught me a lesson I will never forget, my darling. Brace yourself for this confession. My biggest fear is losing you forever because of my actions, my darling.